Welcome to another English Solutions for Business and Life video. Today, we will be focusing on the Global Intermediate book and the grammar section for Unit 2. So, we will look at in this video past simple and past continuous. Also, past perfect and past simple, and modifiers, when we use them and what they are for, and how to use used to and would. So let's begin. Firstly, let's look at past simple and past continuous. We use the past simple and past continuous in different ways. For example, we will use the past simple to talk about completed actions in the past, such as he met his wife in 1988. Something that was completed. Now, for past continuous, we will normally use the past continuous for actions that were in progress in the past or temporary situations in the past. So we're talking about actions that were in progress, such as he was working at a restaurant. That's an action that was in progress before. Now, we also use the past continuous to talk about backgrounds or contexts for a past simple event. In other words, for example, he was working at a restaurant when he met his wife. So the background would be that this person was working at a restaurant, and then the event happened that he met his wife. So that's how we use another form of the past continuous, another usage of the past continuous. We also use the past continuous for activities that were interrupted by an action. Activities that were interrupted by an action. For example, you could say that you were watching TV when the phone rang. There was an event that interrupted your activity of watching TV. That's past continuous. Past continuous is the activity that was interrupted. And the action would be past simple. Now, we would also use the past simple with when and the past continuous with while. So you would know when you have to use the word when that you would have to use a past simple, and if you use while, you would have to use past continuous. For example, I was reading a book when I fell asleep. Here we're using the past simple, and in the sentence I fell asleep while I was reading a book, we use the past continuous for reading a book. Notice that we use both forms of the verb in past continuous and past simple, but in different orders. Okay? So now the next rule is for negatives and questions. Well, when you're using the past simple, you would use the auxiliary verb did. For example, for a negative form of notice in a sentence, she didn't notice him. That's a past simple sentence. And for a question, you will use did she know he would be an important part of her life? That's an example, and it's in past simple. Now remember, you have to use the auxiliary verb did for these questions. Now let's look at when to use past perfect compared to using past simple. Well, the past perfect is used when you're talking about an event that happened before another event in the past. For example, he went to the cinema when he had finished his homework. This means that before he went to the cinema, he had to finish his homework. So we would use the past perfect. In other words, in a timeline, here we have the present and the past. that this person, or in this example, he would go to the cinema here, and that would be past simple. He went to the cinema. But he finished his homework here. And that would be a past perfect because it's before the verb that we are using in the same sentence, and that is in past simple. He had finished his homework. Now let's look at modifiers. Modifiers are words that change the strength of adjectives and adverbs. They can either make them stronger or weaker. Modifiers can be used or go before the adjective or the adverb they're modifying or changing. As I said, they make an adjective or an adverb go stronger or weaker. And here are a list of such modifiers. For example, stronger modifiers that make adverbs and adjectives stronger could be extremely, really, and very, while some modifiers that make adjectives and adverbs sound weaker are a bit, fairly, a little, quite, and rather. Now, some modifiers are more common than others. For example, quite, fairly, and really are more common in spoken language. And as I said, they would go before the adjective or adverb that they are modifying or changing. For example, the woodcutter was terribly sad. Here the modifier is changing the strength of the adjective sad. While in the next example, the children were quite tired is changing the adjective tired. And as I said, one makes it stronger. For terribly would make it stronger. Terribly sad is stronger than just sad. And quite is weaker. Makes it weaker. This can be used to soften a statement, making it less direct. It's not the same to say he's boring than he's not very interesting. Now let's look at how to use used to and would for past habits. Now, used to and would are used to talk about habits in the past or habitual actions, specifically habitual actions. Would is not normally used for questions though. When you're talking about habits or habitual actions, you would not use would. You can use used to talk about habitual states in the past. The difference between the actions and the states is that actions are things you do or things someone does, and states just describe a situation in which the actions are done. We don't normally use or we don't use would at all when talking about states in the past. Now, let me explain the structure. The structure would be that these words go after the subject and before the verb or the action that you're describing. Let's look at this example. I play tennis. That's in the present. Now, if you're talking about a habit in the past, you can say I used to play tennis or I would play tennis. Like that. Now, if you're talking about a negative sentence, for example, I don't play tennis, or in the past, I don't have the habit of playing tennis, you can say, I didn't used to play tennis. Or, I wouldn't play tennis. Like this. I wouldn't play tennis. Now, let's look at an example of a question. Here we have to use the auxiliary verb did And because it's not very usual to ask a question to yourself, we would change the I to you. Did you used to play tennis? Question mark. Now, as I said, we don't use would for questions with this tense or with this intention. We just use used to. Now, those are the uses for these words, used to and would. I hope you could understand them better, and if you have any further questions, make sure you ask your teacher about them. That's it for this grammar section of this video. I hope it could help you understand better this topic. We will thank you for watching, and we hope to see you in the next video.